Welcome to this episode of Pause for Peace with me, Pastor Jule, and I am grateful to report that 1 week later, I made it out. I had the most incredible experience in New Mexico, living for just a few nights and days as a hermit in this beautiful little, really kind of cabin in the woods on the side of a mountain that just didn't have any running water or electricity, but was so peaceful. It was so serene up there. It was incredible. For 4 days, I saw no people whatsoever, no signs of civilization. Although I could kind of look down my mountain view and see others who were a part of the Lama Foundation, at least their dwellings that people were in. I never really did see any people. There were no electric lines like running through the mountain, like, cutting off trees or anything like that. It was pure wilderness and pure wonderful. It was just such an incredible experience. Now, I did have this cute little cabin-like place to stay, and it had beautiful windows that allowed me to look and just every night watch the moon tracing its path across the sky. It was like chasing the sun, if you will, because I got to watch the sun come across the mountains and then, set over the valley that I was able to look out and enjoy each night. And really, I never did take out a watch or anything like that. I did check a cell phone once or twice just to see what time it was. But once I had a sense of that, I knew enough to know when the sun is overhead, it's about noon. And I knew what time the sun was going to rise and what time the sun was going to set, approximately. And I didn't have anywhere else to be. So it didn't matter what time it was on like a real clock, a real watch. It didn't matter whatsoever. All I was able to do was just to be present to what was. Gratefully, there were no critters around except for one little chipmunk who tried to swipe my carrot one night while I was sitting out eating my dinner. It was amazing to me how quickly the temperature around would cool off the moment the sun went down and the winds would begin. There are these amazing winds in New Mexico and gusty winds, in fact, not always cold because it still can be a warm temperature, but it was amazing how the breeze would come as soon as the sun would set. All of the details I was able to notice, like even having a sense as I kind of tracked throughout the night, like, okay, if the moon is in this place, I might have a few more hours yet to sleep. It was just incredible. So I highly encourage, if you ever have an opportunity, to go and find a place where you can be in a secluded hermit cell. The community was there offering their prayers and support around me and ensuring that no other people would come be a part of this area where I was staying at the Lama Foundation. Much appreciated. Every day we would leave little notes back and forth to each other in this designated spot where if I needed something else to eat or if I needed more water, whatever it would be, I would just leave a note. I was even able to leave a note to leave me a little Shabbat wine to join, at least from afar, the community's Sabbath welcoming gathering on Friday night. So that was just an incredible experience. And being out in nature like that was truly restorative. And just having that opportunity to pause and do whatever. I read some old journals. I sat, I looked at trees. I watched the sun move. I took a walk or two around the place. I went and sat in meditative prayer in a special spot there at the Lama Foundation where nobody else was. It was just beautiful. So if you ever have a chance, be sure you find a way to be able to do something similar. And if you think it sounds crazy and nuts and whatever, then perhaps just make a way for anybody else who has that courage and desire to go and be in solitude like that, for them to be able to do it. Support them with your prayers, support them with your financial giving, support them with your encouragement. In our pause for peace today, because of my experience in the woods on the side of this mountain, but also because this podcast is being released on the Fall Equinox 2024, September 22nd. And one of our partners, Sarah Champion, will be with us at Hillwood Presbyterian Church on our lovely grounds and will be leading us in a forest therapy walk on the afternoon of the Fall Equinox. And just what a beautiful chance we have to be able not only to have such glorious land where we can sit and rest for a little bit and observe and notice what is taking place around us each day, and just observe the way this property of Hillwood Presbyterian Church, the grounds themselves are flourishing, are growing, are changing, are showing us the deep wisdom that is in all things, are showing us this pattern of life, death, life, life, death, life. It's a beautiful thing that we can stop and notice. And the way that when we stop in nature, our own cells settle down, our blood pressure can calm down, our immune system has the ability to work better, our stress response can become lower and slower. And so being in nature can be the most healing thing for us. What a gift on the Fall Equinox to be able to be in nature in that way, to notice, to pay attention, and to be in union with all that is. I was reminded on this trip to New Mexico that the Eastern Church has always had this sense of unity, of union, of oneness. And the Western Church has had this classic kind of emphasis often on the distinctness, the differentiation between things. And both are important because we are distinct and yet we are one. This is the mystery of life. And this is what we can see when we take to the forest, when we take to the side of a mountain, when we stop in the middle of a city on the beautiful grounds of Hillwood Presbyterian Church and see that all is one and yet all is distinct. And all has differentiation and yet all is linked together in one whole organism, one whole earth. So for our pause for peace today, I am encouraging us to find a way to let nature heal us, to let us be in sync, if you will, for a little bit with the rhythms of nature. So perhaps there's a beautiful tree that you have in your world somewhere that can remind you to get back in tune with nature, to come back into balance as a creature that's a part of all the other creatures. Perhaps there's a favorite spot you go to watch the sunrise or the sunset. Perhaps there's a place where you're just able to linger in the delight of this world. Wherever that might be for you. And if you don't have a place like that, then Google right now or do a search right now on the internet for some place that can be truly restorative for you. Get a picture before you of some wonderful, wild place on this earth that can be the place that can transport you into union and connection with all that is. So that for these few moments, we're going to be in a little bit of quiet. I'll guide us into a little bit of quiet. you have an opportunity to not only appreciate the distinctions between you and, say, a blade of grass, or you and a tree that is an amazing living organism that communicates in its own way, that produces in its own way, that even tends and guards the whole land in its own way. If you don't know how, perhaps go listen to a tree or go read a book about forest bathing. You'll learn all about it. But we're just going to be a little bit quiet for a bit. That's the invitation today. And to see if we can appreciate the distinctness of all things and feel connected as one with all things. So I'm going to invite you to get yourself comfortable right now. And this might be that you want to take this podcast outside somewhere and sit in a quiet spot or in a noisy spot, wherever it might be. But sit somewhere where you can feel as if there is nature around you, maybe bird song around you. So find that comfortable, quiet position right now. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, or if you are out in nature, keep them open. Be looking for all of the ways the light changes as time passes, or as the way things move when you don't even have a sense that anything is in motion, or the way that things smell, how beautiful the scent of nature. So either keeping your eyes open because you're in nature, or closing your eyes to go inward. This may be a way that you're able to be transported into a beautiful, serene place that you have been out in nature somewhere. I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath. Hold it for just a moment before you release it slowly. One more deep breath. Hold and then release. So much about the season of autumn, of fall, is about release. Because this is a season when the trees themselves lose their leaves, when all things begin to shrivel, as if they are all just doing their part, just trusting that if they just release with ease, all shall be well. And so let's take another deep breath and just check your own system, your own body. See, is there anywhere where you're holding, where you're guarding in your being? Let's just take another deep breath and release whatever needs to be let go. Even if it's the fun and joy and lingering of summer, needs to be released right now, because there's something yet to come. There's a harvest awaiting in these autumn days. There's new lessons emerging as we get ourselves in sync with the cycles of nature. So here we are in the quiet. And I do remind us that Jesus himself walked about this amazing world, and he pointed to nature. He told people to look, to behold, to consider, to watch the birds of the air. Do they ever get busy going to work? Are they ever worried about where their next meal is going to come? No, they just do their thing. The birds trust, they search, and they trust that something will be provided. They will be able to eat. Jesus said, consider the lilies. Just look at a field. Just look at the gorgeous distinction of color that we can see in a field, and the way that it all can come together with such beauty. Even the most stark landscape. While I was in New Mexico, I saw these incredible, like red, dark, deep red clay rock formations, all a part of that high desert of New Mexico. Glorious. And I saw, where I stayed at the Lama Foundation, north of Taos, I saw just this beautiful mountains with dirt, what looked like just dusty dirt, and scrub kind of plants. And yet then there would be these like beautiful little sprigs of yellow flowers coming out, and suddenly a pop of purple. Whatever all the vegetation there is, I don't even know. But it was so glorious. It was so beautiful. Even these ponderosa pine trees that had burned in a horrible fire that had taken place on the side of this mountain in 1996. Even those ponderosa pine trees had this glorious, stark beauty to them. I had a chance to visit Ghost Ranch while I was in New Mexico, where Georgia O'Keeffe lived out many of the last years of her life and painted such glorious landscapes, and was inspired by the bones that she would find there in this stark desert area. And she would paint just glorious creations from what she saw in the remains of, like, the skull of a cattle or of a horse, and just the beautiful way that she would use light and color to create. There are so many ways that we can see such beauty in nature. And there are so many ways nature can heal us. And so Jesus himself points us to nature and says, consider, look, behold. Trust that there is abundant provision. Let's take one more deep breath right now. And I invite you to bring into your imagination, whether you experience that in your heart space, or maybe you experience that in your mind, or wherever, maybe it's even somewhere out in front of you, or maybe you just have your eyes open. Bring to your awareness, behold, a scene, a place of serenity for you, a spot where you have been in just glorious nature. It might even be just before one single tree, one single tomato plant. So bring that spot to your awareness. And see if you can merge yourself with that spot. Literally have yourself enter into that spot. Many people will do that through engaging their senses, imagining how a particular place in nature sounds and smells and tastes and feels, and what a particular place in nature, what can be seen in that particular place in nature. I'm going to invite you too to notice from that particular place in nature what you are experiencing within, in the system of your own being. Perhaps you are experiencing calm. Hopefully you've chosen a spot that is serene for you, but sometimes we feel a little bit of fear when we're in nature. Like stand under or at the bottom of an incredible rock formation that just goes up and up and up and up and up. Or at the edge of the Rio Grande Gorge, where I had a chance to be last Sunday, just at the edge of this amazing gorge, and standing there, not wanting to get too close to the edge because it was so high up, and wondering how many millions of years has it taken for the water to do that to these rock formations, to cut this deep, deep path between each side of the Rio Grande River in that particular area right outside of Taos. Whew. Notice what's going on within you, whatever spot you are in nature. See if you can have that sense of being merged with nature, being one with nature. If you're sitting in nature right now, I invite you to notice what's going on with your feet, if your feet are flat on the earth. When we get ourselves still, especially in nature, we might begin to feel all sorts of like buzzing or tingling in our feet as they're flat on the earth below us, because there's energy in that earth, and there's energy of all those who have passed that place before, and we can begin to notice that energy like lifting us and even coming into us in some ways, and giving us what we need to feel and be energized for the day. Take another deep breath, if you will. Slowly release it. And in the quiet, I wonder if you are willing to pose the question to this scene of nature that you are in, or this scene of nature that you are imagining you are a part of right now. If you would pose the question, what do you want me to behold? What do I need from you to see? What do you want me to behold? What do I need from you to see? Invite the answer to arise from within you. This way that nature may be revealing a word to you, a message to you. It's really a message from God, from the divine, from the holy, but it's coming to us through our systems, through nature, this beautiful matter that we all are. If you get pulled off or you're not hearing much at all, then take another deep breath and once again form that question within. What do you want me to behold? What do you need from you for me to see? Anytime you're pulled off in the silence, you bring yourself back with the breath, and you can pose the question internally once again. This form of listening takes great discernment. Having that sense of knowing when it's the ego that is getting caught up in something, or when that still small voice, that voice that is ever present and can be trusted in a way that our ego asphyxiations cannot be trusted, when that still small voice is speaking the bit of truth that we need to move through this day or this season of our life or these weeks that lie ahead in the season of fall that is now before us. One more deep breath. And before we depart the time of stillness, in your mind's eye or in your heart or with your eyes open if you are actually in nature, just notice what you haven't yet noticed about this beautiful spot of nature. Like, how many years have I lived in this world, under the sun, under the stars, the moon orbiting around the earth, and not noticed the way those two bodies seem to be chasing each other, the sun and the moon. It's as if they're in this eternal dance. And they go on and on. They can be trusted to rise again. To provide what is needed for all of life to take place. The warmth, the energy, the fire of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon, the glory of the night, of the stillness, of all of the creatures that wake up as soon as the sun sets and come alive at night to remind us that we're never alone and all indeed is well, deeply well. Before we depart this time of silence, give some form of gratitude for what you have noticed, what you have beholden in these moments, what you have seen, what has been given unto you. And when you're ready, you can return your awareness to the connection that is between us in these moments. You can open your eyes if they have not yet been opened. You can wiggle your fingers and toes to get yourself planted back here in the now. And I will encourage you to return to an experience all throughout this week of uniting yourself with nature. You are one with nature, whether or not you're conscious that you are one with nature. And when we are one and consciously one with nature, we are held in a way that we can feel so taken from all throughout the rest of the week. But we know ourselves never alone, and we know ourselves held in this abundance and beauty and power that is way beyond us. So thanks so much for joining me today for Pause for Peace. Find your way to honor the change of this season, the fall equinox that is upon us. See how you yourself might be equally imbalanced right now, halfway between all things in your life, and see if there's a way that you can return to stillness in nature in the week that lies ahead. I pray that you will have a beautiful week, that you'll get a moment for solitude somewhere, and that in all that you do, remember to pause for peace. Blessings.